As modern consumer societies have developed, humans have been presented with a beguiling problem: what to do with all the waste generated by our modern lifestyle. Initial solutions favored an out-of-sight, out-of-mind approach. Governments bury trash underground or send it out to sea, sometimes resulting in catastrophic environmental damage. But what if the trash could really be made to disappear? Burning rubbish seems to present an ideal solution. Not only does it make the garbage go away, it could also generate heat and electricity while releasing less greenhouse gas emissions than burning fossil fuels. With this in mind, the United Kingdom has wholeheartedly embraced incineration technology in recent years. Since 2010, the country has more than doubled its capacity for burning residual waste, that is, waste that has not been recycled, up from 6.3 to 13.5 million tons of capacity. An additional 7.9 million tons of capacity has already been contracted to be built in the coming years. But with the rise of renewables, such energy is looking less attractive. Building out incinerator capacity is making recycling goals hard to meet and could lead to the absurd situation of having to import waste to feed to industrial burners. Mystery black bags. Black trash bags often contain recyclable material, according to a new report from the environmental consultancy Eunomia. All of this incinerator building will make it impossible for the UK to meet its planned recycling targets. That's because incineration capacity offers a perverse incentive to stop recycling. According to the waste hierarchy guiding government policy, only waste that cannot be recycled should be incinerated. But what can and cannot be recycled is sometimes subjective. Eunomia's Harriet Park, one of the authors of the report, told DW. Residual waste is the rubbish that's put into the black bags instead of being separately collected, she explained. But a lot of what's in there is recyclable, it's just not being sorted properly. At the moment it's all just being burnt in incinerators. Except that if all of the companies building incinerators were to recoup their investment, that would mean they want as much black bag rubbish as possible. Which, again, offers a perverse disincentive for recycling. The Eunomia report concludes that if all of the planned incinerators were built, the UK will only reach a 57% recycling rate by 2030. That is far below the 70% target about to be adopted under European Union law, a target the UK government has signalled it will keep, even after Brexit. Unclear policy. Park says the incineration boom is a result of unclear government policy. The UK has not set any recycling goals beyond its 2020 target of 50%, which has created market incentives for companies to build incinerators. According to the report, the UK is going to end up with more capacity than it has rubbish to burn by 2021, because there will be ever less black bag rubbish as recycling rates improve. That gap will reach 3.4 million tons by 2030. To keep the incinerators operational, the UK would have to either reduce recycling rates or import rubbish to burn from other countries. And given that these plants have 20-year lifespans, building incineration facilities now locks in that approach for some time to come. A UK government spokesperson told DW that the country is examining a range of policy options while still seeking to boost recycling rates. We recognise the need for a mix of infrastructure, and this will form part of a renewed strategy on waste and resources that looks ahead to opportunities outside the EU, he said. Nordic countries have many waste incineration plants, like this one in Norway. Reduced climate benefit. The UK is not alone in its enthusiasm for incineration. It is a phenomenon across Northern Europe, and some of Britain's neighbours are far ahead in the incineration game. Sweden already burns 50% of the waste it generates, and imports 700,000 tons of waste per year from other countries to fuel its incinerators. The Netherlands and Denmark also now have more incineration capacity than waste. The incineration boom is partly the result of a belief that these facilities could provide a cleaner way to generate energy than fossil fuels, producing less carbon emissions and thus reducing climate change. Under the EU legal framework, some of the electricity generated from waste is deemed to be a renewable energy source and is therefore eligible for tax credits and counting toward national renewable goals. The facilities can also generate heating for cities. Burning waste for energy seems to close the loop, as a circular economy should. But as countries' power sources have become cleaner, the comparative benefit of burning trash has become less clear-cut. Although trash is far less carbon-intensive to burn than coal or even oil, when compared to gas, the difference is less stark. And of course, renewables such as solar or wind power are far cleaner. As we're increasing our use of renewables, we're now offsetting a much less carbon-intense energy mix, and therefore the benefits of burning waste to create energy are far less, Park said. So whatever small climate benefit was once present no longer outweighs the negative effect on recycling rates. Incineration can also release harmful pollutants into the air such as dioxin, furan and bottom ash, although modern plants have become much better at scrubbing or filtering out these emissions. Don't be like the neighbours. Eunomia is advising the UK government to quickly set mandatory recycling targets for after 2020 ahead of EU law so that investors will pull out of planned incinerator construction. If not, the UK could end up with the same overcapacity as its northern European neighbours, where the consultancy says recycling is being stifled and creating an environmentally harmful rubbish trade across borders. The UK currently has capacity to burn 71% of its residual waste. In Germany, this figure is 91%. Sweden's capacity is 162% of its waste generation, while in the Netherlands, it's 143%. These countries are experiencing what we're trying to prevent happening in the UK in the future, she says. They have too much incineration infrastructure in comparison to the amount of waste. Glass is separated into 3 different bins: white, brown and green. Blue or yellow bottles can go with green. However, broken drinking glasses or windows should not be thrown in the bottle and jar containers. They are made of a different type of glass that disrupts the recycling process. Jar lids belong in a separate bin. Residential glass containers are only available in some parts of Germany. If you don't have glass bins at home, or if they are just not big enough after your last big party, you can also use one of these public containers. Here, just like for residential glass containers, you are expected to avoid the noisy task during Ruhezeiten, or quiet times, from 100 p.m. to 300 p.m. and after 800 p.m. on weekdays, as well as on Sundays and public holidays. Bottles with a deposit should go into those glass containers. Instead, Pfandflaschen can be brought back to the store for a refund. Most supermarkets have automatic bottle return machines that gobble up the bottles, calculate your refund, usually 8 cents per glass bottle and 25 cents for plastic. Since many Germans drink sparkling water, returning bottles can be a weekly chore. In urban areas, those who don't bring the bottles back to the store can simply leave them near a public trash bin. It might seem messy, but it actually helps those who go around collecting bottles for money. Collectors can simply pick them up instead of having to dig through the trash. This clever ring around a public trash can in Karlsruhe makes the informal system more effective. All Germans know that the blue bins are for paper and cardboard, but many don't realize that pizza boxes and paper plates for fries don't belong in there. Food leftovers create problems in the recycling process. Glossy paper, such as posters, cannot be recycled with normal paper either. Recycling paper is an old tradition in Germany. It was invented by a lawyer named Justus Klaproth in 1774. Those who are used to the strict restrictions of garden compost will be surprised to find out that they do not apply to the brown or green bins collecting food leftovers in larger cities. Leftovers of cooked or uncooked food, citrus and dairy products, meat and fish can all go into the bin for biomass or biodegradable waste. It is then processed in a fermentation plant. A wide variety of packaging products belong in the yellow bin, such as aluminum, plastic, polystyrene, tin cans, and Tetra Paks. Although cartons should be empty to avoid leaking all over, traces of food are allowed in this bin. The best materials are picked out for recycling and the rest is burned to produce energy. In some areas, instead of the bins, yellow plastic bags are used to collect various types of packaging. They are known as the famous gelber sack. These bags are to be placed outside on the scheduled days planned by the community for collection. The black or grey bin is for restmall. Whatever is left that should go in the previous bins, from diapers to cigarette butts or any other soiled item. Yet even this category can be reduced. More specifically, hazardous waste, such as leftovers of paint, insecticides, corrosive products or fluorescent tubes and batteries, need to be collected separately or brought to the dump. Many supermarkets collect used batteries. Each town has its own collecting system for other hazardous waste, sometimes with scheduled dates where a truck picks everything up, or specific locations where this waste can be dropped off. The reason why these items should not be thrown away with the normal trash is that it is incinerated, and these items would emit poisonous gases when burned. Some items are too big for the trash can. There are special collecting points for what is known as sammeln in Germany, where you can drop off that used sofa, old TV or leftover building materials. Other communities schedule pickup days. Many Berliners just leave the items outside the house with a Zuverschen consign to give away, hoping that neighbors will reuse the stuff. Used clothes and shoes do not need to land in the trash. Bins to collect them can be found throughout most cities. Charities resell the recycled clothes. Some people prefer to allow anyone to have a first pick by leaving their used clothes beside the bin instead of inside it. The collection of shoes that landed in front of this one was somewhat exaggerated, though. When a bin is too full, garbage collectors may refuse to empty it, so adding more trash on top of an already full container will not help. If you wonder why most houses keep the bins locked up, it's to avoid having neighbors dump the trash into them. It is possible to obtain a larger bin of a certain category, but you'll have to pay extra for the service. Despite the reputation for taking trash separation very seriously, not all Germans are tidy waste collectors. An early Monday stroll through park where people are allowed to barbecue and party, such as the Mauer Park in Berlin pictured, demonstrates that the situation can still be improved. Now that you know all the rules, you can outdo Germans and become the next trash nerd. Author Elisabeth Grenier.